Good afternoon and welcome to Elevate Chat with Kent Boehm of 9 Business Group and Cam French. Cam, welcome and please introduce yourself and your company.
Sure, thanks. So I'm Cameron French. I'm with Alley Cat Brewing Company. I'm the owner here. And we've been around for one of Alberta's oldest breweries and Edmonton's Edmonton's oldest craft brewery. So we've been around we're in our 27th year now. Definitely known for a few of our beers that have been around for most of the life, with Apricot being our biggest one, and currently our summer seasonal of the Mangalorean, which is back for its second year.
Fantastic. It's always a good sign when you get to bring a product back year after year.
Exactly. Yeah, there was some good demand for that one, so we definitely we had people waiting and asking when it was coming. So we had to, by popular demand, it came back this year.
Is there in the brewery world, is it popular and common to have cyclical beers? I mean, I've never been much of a beer guy. I grew up with a dad. It was Labatt's Blue and Molson Canadian. It was the same old everywhere he went. And now we enter this world where there's new flavors all the time. So tell me a little bit why beer can be cyclical or seasonal, maybe is a better word.
Yeah, it all depends. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. So the way we line up, we have a set of core beers that we have available throughout the year. We have various seasonal beers, which often will typically change. So our summer will usually change year to year. Our winter will change year to year. This is the odd year where our summer stayed the same, just because it was a popular demand. Many people were asking for it, wanting it back, asking stores, restaurants when it was coming back. Our fall beer is always a pumpkin beer related at that time. So that's the one that always comes out then. But then we also have other, I wouldn't necessarily call them seasonal beers, but they're more of a rotational. We do a couple different series where we have our brewers are just creating something new and releasing one-offs on a monthly basis, quarterly basis. We have some double IPAs that we release on a quarterly basis, and we just change the hop. So we basically get a different hop-focused beer every time, but overall same beer, but wildly different taste based on just the hop change. So quite interesting that side. So there is a lot of different approaches to it, whether it's the same beers coming back just due to customer demand. There is a lot of demand though for always something new, different, interesting. So always trying to create something out there as well.
Fantastic. I don't know how to ask the question because I really don't want a crappy answer, so I got to be careful. You sell beer, which typically goes to everybody. Most people drink beer. But what is an ideal client? Like when you think about crafting a beer and you're working with your team to come up with different flavors, who is your ideal client?
So it can range. We're definitely looking for people that are willing to try something new, try something different, try something with a little more flavor on the side of it. It's not going to be most of our beers, almost all of our beers, none of them are just a plain, easy drinking taste like the one next door on that shelf. So all of our beers have a unique flavor, and that's kind of the craft industry in general. So there's not a lot of craft beers out there that are all your big box guys just sitting on the shelf that all taste pretty much the same. If you put them all in a blank cup, everyone have a hard time picking one out from the other unless you're one of their testers. But otherwise, yeah, so we're looking for people that want to try something new, want to try something unique, really want to get out there and find those kind of niche people that are looking for the small batch craft stuff that is, I guess, handcrafted on a much smaller scale with a lot more local ingredients going into it, those high quality ingredients going into it, and just getting people that are looking for that local product as well.
Now, I know a little bit about your background. You shared it with me as we've been ready for the interview today. You are a CPA, a chartered accountant by trade, if memory is correct, which, if it wasn't for the current government regime, accounting would seem pretty simple and straightforward and almost linear. And you just spent the last 5 minutes dancing and talking about variety of beer. So how do you go from this straight linear profession of accountant into, I now want to play around in this creativity space of beer?
Well, me personally, I like the accounting side of things was mostly to get a good understanding of a lot of variety of businesses when I was going through doing my articling, working with businesses in all different industries, from construction to oil and gas to local mom and pop shops here in Edmonton, out in small town rural Alberta, working with farms, you name it. So getting a very wide experience of just seeing different businesses, how they operate, the inner workings of them. Ultimately, I knew in the end that I didn't necessarily want to be an accountant per se. It was more of a means to an end to get into that business knowledge and that business acumen to basically go through and use that and apply that in my own business one day is kind of how I wanted to approach that. So that's it's definitely been useful and beneficial in terms of running a business. I don't do a lot of accounting, but I'm still able to look at our accounting, look at our books, know what's going on that side of things, but also just planning and the different strategies and forecasting on that side of things. It's also been helpful too.
So are you in build mode for Alley Cat, or are you in dream mode where you're looking to exit the business, sell it off, or is it, no, I'm young, I want to make this what? So is it finish mode or dream big mode, build mode?
Definitely in growth mode is what we are shooting for. So we've just recently released, so the beer side of things, obviously Alley Cat is a well-established name in the industry here in Alberta. That being said, we would like to look at expanding that as well. The liquor industry is a little bit interesting in Canada. It's not a free trade industry across every province. Every province has their own rules. So there's those opportunities to look to go that route for sure on the beer side, plus always coming out with something new and different here in Alberta and keeping that market fresh and growing. And then on the flip side, we've also recently released a craft hard seltzer as well. So we have gone into that game as well, and that's an ever-growing market. It's been growing in North America the last few years, and as you walk into any liquor store, you'll see that shelf space is just getting bigger and bigger. So most of it's controlled currently by a lot of the big guys that have their names there, but we are trying to put a push on to compete with them and put our Alley Cat one out there. So we've called it 7 Craft Hard Seltzer, and our big push is trying to bringing people together to enjoy the local craft seltzer.
Excellent, cool. So you said you went to Art Organic School and you wanted some business experience. Why Alley Cat and why brewery? Out of all the businesses you could acquire, build, grow, why beer versus oil patch versus oil field servicing versus retail? What was the appeal, and was there any? Could you give the listeners any insight as to how to select a business to invest into and buy or acquire?
Sure. So after doing the articling, I actually did go into the oil and gas services industry. So I was there for about 5 years or so. Learned a lot about business on that side of things. Enjoyed what I was doing on that. The opportunity came up just through discussions, and because I knew ultimately in the end I did want to own my own business. Wasn't 100% sure off the bat what I wanted to do. The opportunity came up in speaking with the original owners of Alley Cat, the founders. They founded the business, and ultimately, in the end, through some discussions, we're looking to retire and move on. So, needed an exit strategy. So it was an interesting opportunity. Dug into it a little deeper. About a year-long conversation or so, back and forth, doing various due diligence and everything. Decided that this is it's a very interesting industry. It's a very fun industry. Who doesn't like working with beer? Let's be honest. Some days you come in, you got to sample beer, so it's tough. It's a tough one, but it's fun. But ultimately, it made sense from a business standpoint. It made sense from a work-life balance standpoint. It made sense from just being something fun and interesting that I like doing, like being a part of. Do they let me brew? No, but definitely I can continually learning every single day and working with our team. We got a lot of smart people here as well. So working with them and moving on that side of things, bringing my experience to it as well to help try to grow and push the Alley Cat name. So there was just a lot of opportunity, and it just felt like the right one to step in and work on. So
What was the biggest surprise? What was the one thing that all the prep, all the research, all the due diligence you did in becoming an owner, were there any 1 or 2 or 3 surprises in the first 6 months that was kind of like, man, I didn't see that coming?
Oh, COVID for sure. It happened about a month after coming on with Alley Cat. It happened about a month and a half after, and then that threw things into a tailspin of restaurants, bars being closed, the keg side of the business going from a significant chunk, about a third of the business, down to zero, literally. And then the can side climbing back up on the liquor store side because people didn't stop drinking. So working with inventories and scheduling and production, that side of things was definitely a heavy challenge on that side of things. And not only that, then all of a sudden there's inventory shortages in cans and packaging and material that you're trying to fight with. And honestly, you're competing against guys that are thousands and tens of thousands of times your size that are saying, well, I need these cans, so they're coming to me. They've got a lot more buying power, so you're searching even further for more to try to gain access to inventory. Because if you're not putting it in cans at that time, there's no kegs going out the door, so it was a lot of that side of things. So that was definitely a big challenge. Just the ups and the downs, the openings, the closings, you were watching your inventories very quickly and making daily changes to things.
Absolutely fascinating. No, I didn't realize that ownership was that close to the COVID handoff, if you will. So thank you for sharing that. Was revenue and production relatively the same once you kind of got through the restaurant change in business, and did it bounce back for you guys?
Yeah, it definitely did. It took a little while as people were obviously scared and nervous and uncertain on what was happening. Once that kind of happened, it did level out. Like I said, the canned liquor store side of it definitely came back and accounted for a good portion of the kegs that didn't happen. Now we like to plan out ahead, and we like to forecast, plan, look at our inventories. The problem is now we're going back the other direction as everything else is opening. Kegs are starting to climb. They did last summer, and then they shut down again, and then this summer they're climbing, and we're seeing it return to those levels again. So now on the flip side, now you're looking at the other side where the liquor stores are getting a little bit less because the keg side is getting more. So you're starting to see that leveling out now at this point. So it's definitely it's interesting going the other way. Yeah.
What are the biggest frustrations with your industry?
I guess sometimes there's a lot of it, like everything we do, we deal with basically through the AGLC on that side of things. So we sell all beer technically to the AGLC, even if we're delivering it to a restaurant or a bar or anybody else. Everything goes through the AGLC side of things. So it has its positives, it has its negatives. It's good in the terms of the fact that we only really have one customer that we ultimately deal with. The difficult part is then we deal with, if we are going to other provinces, we have to deal with their governing body of their liquor board or whatever they may be called. And they're not all the same, and they all have different rules, and they all have different import rules. Whereas here in Alberta, anybody can register a SKU for beer and ship it here and sell it. Whereas I can't do that in BC or Saskatchewan per se. It's definitely not, like I said, it's not open fair trade across everything. Alberta's market is open, but no other province is. So that makes it a little bit harder.
That's very insightful. I've heard rumors of that before. Is that going to change anytime soon, where we kind of have a more equal business market for breweries in Canada?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's hard to say. That's, like I said, that's every single, you would think it would make sense logically that we could do that across the board and be fair across the board. But again, that's definitely far above any decisions I get to make.
Is it easier than, like, have you considered export to the US, and would that be easier?
A little bit logistically, yeah, there's some different things on that side, but we haven't looked into it that closely yet, just because there is some different logistics. And again, you're working with different provinces, and you also need different reps and stuff like that working out of the individual states. So or agencies, or whichever route you may go. So there is that side of it as well. So that is definitely a future consideration, not something that we're immediately at.
Cool, thank you. What one piece of advice would you share about acquiring business or growing a business to a aspiring entrepreneur, somebody who's going, I want to go out there and become a business owner? What one piece of advice would you give them, other than don't do it?
Yeah, definitely willing to be flexible. You never know what your day is going to look like. You never know what you're going to do. Like lately, we've been backfilling some positions here and there lately. So like a lot of industries are having, there's definitely some staffing shortages across the board, which people do like to work at a brewery, which is good. So people do apply, and we get that. But in the interim, you still have to figure out as a small business owner, and you only have so many people and staff, and they're all doing something. So your day could look different every day. So I could be out driving the forklift in the back. I could be out doing the deliveries. I could be here talking with customers, you name it. So there's never one thing that your job or your role entails. So definitely be flexible.
No kidding. One of my favorite questions, but I always hesitate to ask it because I always got to put a caveat. What is one of the biggest mistakes you're willing to share that you've made?
Definitely one thing to get over is, so I guess when we're creating beers ourselves, like, so we come up with various ideas for different seasonals or rotationals on that side of things. You have to put your own biases and personal likes aside. You may like something, but it might be absolutely terrible to everybody out there. So definitely make sure you're listening to everybody else, taking those opinions, doing those research, listen to your team. Because if I like it, that's great. But if 80% of the people out there don't like it and it doesn't sell, well, that's a big waste of beer that didn't sell. So definitely put that aside and focus on the bigger picture, not just necessarily what you like or think is right.
So that's fantastic from a beer and a product development point of view. How do you think that would apply to a business owner with a team of 10 to 20 when it comes to staying steadfast on what's right for the business versus taking advice but still filtering for what's best? Because obviously we all have different people that will weigh in that we seek counsel from. Yep. So a product that we deliver absolutely has to be consumer faced. But how would you apply that same type of advice from a business perspective and trying to stay true to yourself, but at the same time being open to new ideas to grow and scale your business?
Yeah, I would say always just be willing to listen and open to listen to other people. Everybody views something differently, and regardless of how you view it, it might be right. But then again, it also may not be, or someone may have a better or even just a different way to look at things too. So I would say always be open to listening. There's always something you can learn, take away from everything. Whether or not you go the route of the suggestions or whether you go your own route, doesn't really matter in the end, but you at least have that for next time and you may consider it anyway. So I would always say definitely keep those options open. Listen, you can always learn something.
Going back to the pandemic for a second, were there any changes you made that you haven't alluded to already that have become a permanent place in your business? Something you had to put in place, a strategy or decision that was quote unquote reactionary to navigate COVID and the pandemic, but now has become part of your business because it just made sense going forward?
I don't know so much on that side of things. Things are returning more to their normal. For the longest time there, we were doing home deliveries. Not something we wanted to be in permanently. We did consider looking at it permanently, and that was kind of a wait and feel it out kind of thing. Could we still keep doing home deliveries? Probably. Would they be as popular as they were during the actual lockdowns and throughout the last 2.5 years? Probably not. Just in terms of people do like getting out to go do things, see people. There are people that would definitely take home deliveries all the time. But again, the scheduling on that side of things, you're staffing that, you're delivering, you're driving, there's a lot of work on that side of things too. Whereas there's liquor stores on every second corner. So just as easy to do it that route. And then we're also competing against those liquor stores too then by direct delivering. So we don't really want to compete against our own customers as well on that side. So that was one thing that we did consider looking at full time, but ultimately in the end, we decided, yeah, we don't want to be in the delivery business and be shooting ourselves in the foot by competing against our customers on the same street.
No, that makes sense. Big picture thinking, 10, 15 years from now, what does it look like? What does Alley Cat look like? And what is the biggest dream that you could put on the dream board to say, I want Alley Cat to be this?
Yeah, I definitely want to see us. I want to see us expanded to across all of Western Canada, probably all the way into Ontario would make sense. Across Canada would be great. Like I said, that's going to take time. Each province is different, so it does take time. But I'd like to see some big expansions on that side of things, which ultimately means growth in our production facility. And then also too, like I want to grow not just our beer market, but I want to grow our beverage market as a whole. So our seltzers are ready to drink, that side of product, which we've just only recently been in for the last 2 months that we just started out and are just growing. Definitely want to continue to push that and to grow that market as well. just because there is that opportunity out there and not just be seen as just that beer company that's out there. We want to be more of that the full beverage side of things.
Thank you. What do you want to be known for?
Alicat producing just a great product all the time. So we want to be the highest quality product out there, something that people go to and turn to.
And how about you personally, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader? What do you want to be known for?
I think ultimately running a successful business, and that's in terms of the business itself doing well, the employees that we have here, the staff. Like, we have a really good team. So having that staff there, keeping that staff together, helping them grow their careers and continually furthering themselves as well is definitely a goal that I want to do. So if you're keeping them happy, keeping your staff happy and moving forward, definitely makes your life a lot easier on that side of things. So I definitely want to keep encouraging them and moving them forward as well. So overall, just I guess being able to just grow the company in general, but then also to grow the people around it as well.
Pretty simple, pretty simple. Any parting comments as we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. I definitely, thanks for having me on. It definitely took us a few times to get this scheduled properly, but I'm glad we could finally do it and connect. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, so on that, we'll just say good night. Thanks all for watching, and thank you very much for your time. And the website, please, Cameron.
Our website is alleycatbeer.com.
That's pretty simple. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.